back as we dive into the rabbit hole once again. I'm Julio Coolio.
I'm Jamie Nunez.
I'm Aaron Garcia.
And today we are going to be talking about ghosts, which is fitting because our last co-host, Stephanie, is currently a ghost in our session.
This is true. Shout out Stephanie. We love you. Shout out everybody else who couldn't be here.
Yeah, everyone in the class who ghosted us.
Yeah.
All right, so for our first topic, have you guys ever had any experiences seeing ghosts or hearing strange noises?
So one time I actually went to St. Augustine for a 4th grade field trip, right? And it's like one of the oldest, if not the oldest city not only in Florida, but I think like in the United States. I could be wrong on that. But I know it's if not the oldest city in the state of Florida, and there's like a bunch of history and like, apparently it's a place riddled with ghosts. And I remember one time in the tour back when I was in 4th grade, we stopped by this cemetery, and I could have sworn like I saw like something like move, like what I thought it was like something. I can't describe what, like jumping over like the tombstones, and I thought it was like a little kid or like a little like a little child like playing around there. And then as I like got that feeling, the tour guide is like, yeah, like there was like a little girl who would like chill here all the time or whatever, and chill and like hang out here. I was like, what? And yeah, and I have another story with someone I know. It was essentially this person I know interacted with the Ouija board, and essentially ever since that night or that day, they had these quote unquote, I don't want to say powers, but they were more sensitive to the supernatural than the normal person. And for example, one time I was told the story.
So basically a sixth sense.
Right, exactly. So, and there's a story that I was told where this individual walks in. First off, the friend was like, had an evil spirit in them, essentially. And they basically asked this person to show up and see if there's anything that they can do, because they knew that this person was, kind of had the sixth sense. So the minute the person walked in the room in the house, she was like, yeah, like I feel something bad, and like immediately started praying. And then they basically carried on like a full exorcism, and that evil spirit like got away or whatever, like left the person. And yeah, and even like the other day it happened, like she smelled something funky, like I think it was in like the garage or something, and then she immediately started praying, started like saging the house and stuff like that, because she just got bad vibes. And even another instance, someone else was just in her vicinity, and immediately she like started feeling bad, like sick, uneasy, and when that person left, immediately felt better. And it's just like interesting how that can change. And there's so many like planes, like we can only see, the tree there, the leaves, the cats outside, but there's a whole other plane, like dimension, that we can't see. Like some people say that dogs and babies can see it, but like we can't. So it's interesting how sometimes that spectrum can be fluctuated depending on like, I don't know whether what experience or like what you're exposed to, but I find that really interesting.
I kind of have a similar experience. When I went to middle school, I went to Coral Gables Prep. I had to move houses, so we ended up moving into the front part of this duplex. And the owner of the duplex lived in the back, but what she did not know is that the previous owner that she bought the duplex from, the reason she sold it is because her husband died there. So then, like, it wasn't just me, it was also the girl who lived back next door. She would also complain about like hearing voices at night and like hearing footsteps, and like sometimes the computer, which was in my room, would automatically like restart itself in the middle of the night.
No.
And and then eventually we found out that, yeah, the reason that happened is because the guy's spirit was there. It was a murder house.
Wow.
Those stories are the craziest ones.
Yeah.
So for me, the closest thing that I've had to a ghost experience was once I kind of experienced sleep paralysis, and I didn't necessarily see like a figure in front of me. It was just more like I woke up and I couldn't move, and that feeling of not being able to move is one of the worst feelings I've ever experienced in my life. Like I immediately closed my eyes and I started praying. I'm like, no, no, don't. Like
Don't take me.
I wasn't sure if I was in a dream or if it was real life, but I did feel like a weird sensation around me. So all I did, I just tried my best to like go back to sleep, and thankfully after like a few minutes, I eventually did. But I don't know if you guys have ever experienced something like that, but I hope you guys haven't, because
I actually had something like that happen to me, like Monday night, like waking up into Monday, where like I was just sort of frozen, and the one thing I remember seeing is like a shadowy figure, like almost like a devil almost. It was like really weird stuff.
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling.
That sounds like more of a night terror, if anything. But yeah, that's kind of like more along the same lines. I feel like, kind of when I was younger, I would feel like that. Like I feel like one of those things that you guys both described would just pop up when I'm like shampooing my hair. Then I wait and I open my eyes and I'm like, he's just staring me in the face. It's like,
Yeah, and I've heard from a lot of friends that they have like closed their eyes and they have seen like things pop up in the darkness. And like it's funny you mentioned that you went on a trip to St. Augustine, because I feel like when you go on a trip, that's when everything happens. I don't know if it's because you and your friends are like tripping or whatever, but you always start hearing things, seeing things, and I don't know, bro. I mean, like Julio was saying, there could be a spirit in that place that you're going to you've never gone to. So.
Definitely. I feel like with the supernatural comes, obviously with, ghosts, like the supernatural, like, it comes with, heaven and hell is like hand in hand with ghosts, right? Obviously, because they're, how do you say it, not put to rest? I don't know, like something's keeping them here that is not making them put to rest. You know what I mean?
Physically they're dead, but
Right.
spiritually they haven't found peace.
Exactly. So like when we talk about ghosts, obviously religion is hand in hand with that, right?
Yeah.
Even, to whoever doesn't want to, whoever isn't the most religious person, either when it comes to like this conversation, I feel like just kind of like, it's kind of obvious that, with ghosts, there is like heaven and hell. And these souls, these people who aren't physically with us, but maybe spiritually still are, like they're not put to rest. Something is keeping them here. And basically that's kind of like what I'm trying to get the point across, is that these are obviously used to be like, human beings and like people with families who like love them and miss them, right? But when their time came, they didn't go to heaven or hell, or not that we know of, maybe, if that makes sense, like
Purgatory.
Right, exactly. Like they're kind of still here, like whatever. I don't know if it's a purpose they have to fulfill or if someone has to do something for them. Like, for example, like if there's like if where they used to live, there's like a building there and like someone comes and like crashes a building. I'm just saying an example, right? But like maybe that happens and then they put to rest, or you know what I mean? Like
Normally in those cases you would have to like sage the place.
right.
Yeah, that actually leads us perfectly into our next question here. What do you think the afterlife is like? And I actually have a story of my own, not really of my own, but my mom. Basically, my mom's mother-in-law did not really like her that much and tried to have her killed with brujeria.
Wow.
And it's funny because my mom's mother-in-law was like the most devout Catholic like in Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
And what would happen is that my mom said that like she had a near-death experience where she saw like all of her dead family members in this void somewhere. And then this was a couple of years ago actually, where my mom was having a dream, and one of her old relatives came to her and said, "Hey, be careful because you have a great sickness." And then it turns out like she had stomach cancer and she had to get operated for that.
Wow. Whoa. And then like everything's fine, right? Like that story.
Yeah.
Has a good ending.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah.
Okay. What's it called? No, that is crazy.
No, like they appear like sort of like in Star Wars, how you see Obi-Wan where he's like, go to the Dagobah system. You'll train under Yoda.
Just like that, but in your dreams. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Force, right? That can kind of be like on some like supernatural stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean the Force is based on Star Wars as a whole is based on a lot of psychological, spiritual, and scientific concepts all just like meshed together to be presentable to a general audience. George Lucas himself said it.
Yeah, he's a goat. But to answer your question, I definitely think there is afterlife, right? I definitely think, if you believe in Jesus, like, if you are a believer in God and you believe that, Jesus died for our sins, then I think you go to heaven. But if you don't do that, if you don't check like the boxes, then I think you are just forever suffering in eternity in hell. Like that's pretty much it. Or you could be, kind of pretty much in purgatory. Have you guys read Dante's Inferno?
Yes.
I'm nuts.
Love that book. It's basically a story about this guy in a midlife crisis, and he basically goes through every circle of hell. Like that's kind of like the blueprint of hell. Like in the book is like there's like 8 circles or 12 circles, whatever it is. And
12.
Yeah, he goes through each circle, and one of the circles is like purgatory, and it's like the saddest. It's like the craziest thing.
Yeah, it was like people who weren't baptized because Jesus Christ wasn't born yet.
Yeah, there's literally like you see all types of people from different eras, like before Christ was born, after Christ was born, like, and they all did different things and
they describe
sins.
purgatory as like the worst level, not like the worst, like the least sufferable level of hell.
Yeah, and which is also like it's like it's kind of like not counterintuitive, but like it's like you're not getting like your eye, like poked out every like hour or whatever. You're just like literally like in a void of nothingness forever. So like that's why it's like it's arguably the worst, and it's like it's just crazy. And then the worst circle is like frozen. It's like this place is because it's the furthest from God's like love basically, and that's where like Brutus is and like Judas, like everyone who like betrayed and like killed Julius Caesar and like Jesus. And I love that depiction of it because like it's just like it's just so cool like for someone to have put on print, like on paper, their depiction of hell, and it kind of helped me get a sense of like, damn, like there's really
it's not
levels to this,
and it's not the traditional like pit of fire that we normally see everywhere else. There actually is a 13th level of hell.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever seen Nostalgia Critic?
No.
He was reviewing the movie Good Burger. And then, the part where Ed puts grapes up his nose and he's like, bloobity, 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 bloobity. And then in the review, he's like, stop it. This is the 13th level of hell. Yeah. Dante just didn't write about it because he was too scared.
That's funny, man.
but
and then they have like this whole monologue where it's like, and down below, an obnoxious douchebag will be singing bloopity, 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 bloopity.
Like for me, like there's like a Taylor Swift song or something that like if you play endlessly, like I'll lose my mind. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody has that one song that they just do not want to listen to one more time, or they're gonna explode. Yeah. But to answer the question of the afterlife. I'm a Christian myself, so I believe kind of like what you were saying that you go to heaven or hell. But talking about it, besides that, something that it's hard for me to comprehend is people that don't think there's nothing after. I don't judge anybody what they believe, but I can't imagine dying and then that's it. Like it's just darkness. I'm nowhere. Like I'm dead. Ever since I was a kid, I've always wonder like, oh, it's just something after. And I obviously started becoming a Christian. But even if I wouldn't have become a Christian, I can't accept that because then I'm living kind of scared. I know obviously they tell you to make the most out of your life, but I'm pretty sure you guys would agree if there was nothing at all after, wouldn't you guys feel a bit like uneasy, like living daily life?
I mean, there's a whole Family Guy episode about it where how Brian's an atheist and then he's like, oh yeah, there's nothing after death. And then Stewie's like, oh my God, like, why don't I just kill myself now? Because there's nothing anyways. And then like Brian has to like talk him out of it, first of all. And then he takes him to like different churches and he's like, this is what they believe happens after death, and so on and so forth.
That I gotta see that episode. I feel like I have, but it's been so.
It's the one where it opens with a funeral. I think it was either Peter's mother or Angela. I think it was Peter's mother who died at the beginning of the episode.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I gotta check that one out. But yeah, man, like to your point, Abram. Me being a Christian, I feel I fear death way less because I know what's at the other side for me, which is like obviously like God's castle, paradise, heaven, and as opposed to like if I wasn't a believer, like literally what is there to look for? Like at that point, then you would start looking at like reincarnation, like what would I come back as, like as a butterfly or like a bird or something, you know what I mean?
What's interesting is that if you've ever watched the 2003 anime for Full Metal Alchemist, the one where they deviated from the manga, their depiction of death is that when you die, there's a doorway.
I love it.
And it takes you to another world. And spoilers for that, at the end of the show, when Edward dies, he gets taken to England, like literally like real world England around World War II. So it's literally the idea, like, if you die, you're technically dead in one world, but you're still alive in another.
Right. I love Fullmetal Alchemist, number one. And yeah, like I love the whole, like the law of alchemy. Like basically if you want to gain something, you have to lose something of equal value. And the whole idea of that anime is just so sick. Sorry, I just had to put that in there.
Yeah. And this leads us into our final question for today. Do you think reincarnation is possible?
You want to go first?
I mean, that's a tough question to answer for me because, like I was saying, like being a Christian, obviously that kind of goes against what I believe. But that what I can say is that idea has always interested me, and if that's something that was real, not that I would look forward to it, but it'll be like, that's the only thing that would be on my mind. Like, oh, when I die, what am I gonna come back as? Am I gonna come back as like an animal? Am I gonna come back as just another person, start from scratch? Are those memories gone forever, or do they kind of stay somewhere in your mind? That's the type of stuff that I think about when I think of that.
Yeah,
I kind of have an experience personally regarding what you said. I believe that the theory of reincarnation is a lot like in Avatar, where like someone dies and they're reborn as a new person, but there's still like that same sense. In there, like you still feel like something familiar about their presence or like something they have to achieve in life, whatnot. My uncle, he actually got shot in Hialeah in, I think it was like 97. I have to say, yeah, it was 97. And then I was born in 2001. And then my mom keeps noting how like facially I look like a mix between my grandpa from my mom's side and my uncle. And both of them died before I was born. And the other day we were talking and I was just like, do you, like one thing she mentions is like, oh yeah, your eyebrows are the same as your uncle. And then one thing we were talking about is that, hold on, I'm trying to find the words for it. Yeah. So I was telling her, do you think like there was maybe some reincarnation there? And she says, I'm not going to lie, I've always thought that was true.
I honestly, now that you mention that, I really do believe to that in some extent, as far as like when someone in your family, like for example, your great grandfather, your great grandmother, when they pass, right? And then the newest generation that's born, like whether it be like an uncle or an aunt that has, like a child, I feel like for sure, and honestly, it goes for like the whole lineage, that part of them, like part of their spirit or their soul is like with you, and in that sense, I can I'll say yes, because that's just how powerful. I feel like that's how powerful like this, like just the spirit realm is, right? Like if you're a very spiritual person and like you just like pray a lot, or you've done so much good. Not that really like should dictate like like you have access to like, or like you get more blessings because you did good stuff. Like that's not really how it's supposed to work. But basically, like I feel like if you're so in tune with like the word, or like just like you're like in your family as well, I feel like part of that ancestry line is part of like the great grandfather, great grandmother is going to be with like each generation, if that makes sense, like of you. So to answer your question, yeah, to an extent, not like. But it's funny too, and I wanted to touch on this first, but then that like took my mind. Reincarnation has like always been a thing, like forever, like with like ancient, like Sumerians, I'm sure, like Egyptians, like even like I'm sure like with like the Incas, or like in like South America too.
Yeah, there was one article actually where it was an American kid who was born, and he somehow had memories of his previous life as a Buddhist monk.
Wow.
And then they actually visited the monks and everything, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is him."
I think I saw that. I actually I remember that was like a while ago, right?
Yeah.
I do remember that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people are really subscribing to the idea as well. Like, I don't know if you've seen Oshinoko.
Mm-mm.
It's this one anime about this idol, and it's a murder mystery because it's like she gets killed when her kids are 4 years old. But her kids were actually people she knew were actually people she knew, because the guy, Aqua, used to be... Actually, let me start from the beginning. So basically, this idol, I, gets pregnant. And then she's under the care of this doctor. And then there's this girl who has a terminal illness who's like a big fan of I as well. Both of them get killed in the hospital, and then they end up coming back as I's children. And then I ends up getting killed, and then we don't know like where her soul is at. And the whole thing is like they're trying to figure out like who's responsible.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. That's like a time loop anime, also like on a deep spiritual level.
Yeah, so it's sort of the idea where like when someone dies, part of them will come back. And we see that like Aqua has like all of the memories from his previous life, but the girl Ruby doesn't have any of her memories from her previous life until like later on when she discovers them.
That's sick. That reminds me of what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say what I'm getting from all of this is I gotta watch more anime.
Yeah, dude. What I was just about to say, like to just end the anime talk. There's one anime. It's called Summertime Rendering.
Yeah,
it's sick. And basically, like the whole gist of it is there's an island, and there's like a myth or like a folk tale of like when you see like your doppelganger, like someone who looks just like you, when you see that, you're gonna die. That in the island, right? So there's like a whole like basically a bunch of questions that are coming from that island. Like why is that a thing? So basically there's like this, it all starts from like this alien. I don't want to ruin it for you, but spoiler alert, basically like it's like basically like an alien, right? Long story short, comes and like builds a bond with like this little girl. And they basically like take over the island, like and start like killing people and making doppelgangers of them. So they'll kill the actual person, and then they'll birth the copy of them, right? And then that copy can do everything just like the original person, except they're like a shadow. And it's funny. It's kind of like a reincarnation thing,
yeah,
in a sense. But that's basically the anime. And then there's one guy who comes and basically saves the island. So that's kind of one method of reincarnation that's portrayed in an anime that I really enjoyed watching. Highly recommend watching Summertime Rendering.
Yeah, I mean, last thing that I would say about it is that a lot, because when you mentioned reincarnation, I was first thinking about it as just being born again. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about it in a spiritual way, the spirit is with you. When you say it like that, it sounds more like, okay, I could get it into that idea. And I think that applies to everything that we're talking about today, because when you say ghost to somebody, it has like a bad connotation of like movies, or that doesn't exist. People are quick to be like, nah, forget about that. But you mention a spirit, a demon, people are more be like, okay, I could believe that. So, but they don't realize that obviously when we say ghost, that's what we're referring to.
Right. That's funny. Yeah, and we haven't even talked about demons at all in this episode, even though we probably should have in this episode of ghosts.
We'll probably save that for another episode.
Yeah, we
That
should.
could have his own thing. If we're talking about horror movies,
True.
all of that.
Very true. Yeah, we can have like a little part 2, like a continuation.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to stick around with us through our social media at Heated SoFlo and on our website as well. I'm Julio.
I'm Jamie Nunez.
Aaron Garcia.
And join us next time as we dive into the rabbit hole.
See ya.